Long ago, in a small village surrounded by dense forests and mighty rivers, there lived a kind and humble man named Koku. He was a farmer by trade, tending to the fertile land that stretched beyond the horizon, just outside the village. Koku's life was simple, but his heart was pure, and his generosity was known to everyone in the village. He gave what little he had to those in need, and he never turned away anyone who sought his help. Koku's life had never been rich in material wealth. His farm provided enough for him to live on, but he always struggled to save. Yet he never complained. The earth provides enough for those who work with humility and patience, he would say. He had everything he needed, or so he thought. One day, as Koku worked in his fields, a stranger appeared at the edge of his farm. The man was tall, draped in a cloak of brilliant gold that shimmered in the sunlight. His face was kind but wise, and his eyes sparkled as if they knew the secrets of the world. "Greetings, Koku," the stranger said, his voice deep but gentle. "I have watched you for many years, and have seen your generosity and hard work. You are a good man." Koku stopped what he was doing, a little startled by the stranger's knowledge of him. He wiped the sweat from his brow and stood up, wiping his hands on his shirt. "Thank you, sir," Koku said, bowing slightly. "I try my best to do what is right." The stranger smiled. "I have a gift for you, Koku, but it is not a gift of gold or silver. It is a gift of great power, one that comes with responsibility." With that, the stranger reached into his cloak and produced a small, simple-looking pot. It was made of clay, yet it gleamed as though it had been polished with the finest gold. The pot was unassuming in appearance, but it radiated a strange, ethereal energy. "This is the golden pot," the stranger explained. "It has the power to grant you anything your heart desires, but there are conditions. You must use it only for the good of others. If you ever use it for selfish gain, the power will be lost to you." Koku was taken aback. He had never heard of such a thing. "How does it work?" he asked. "The pot will provide food, wealth, or anything you need. All you have to do is place your hands upon it and ask, and it will give you what you desire. But remember, Koku, this gift comes with a heavy price. Use it wisely, for it can either bring you great blessings or great ruin." Koku, though deeply grateful, was cautious. He had never been one to seek wealth or luxury, but he could see how such a gift could help those in need. He promised to honor the stranger's words, and to use the pot only for good. The stranger nodded and vanished as mysteriously as he had appeared, leaving Koku alone with the golden pot. It sat in his hands, small and unassuming, but Koku could feel its power pulsing softly, like the heartbeat of the earth itself. For days, Koku simply looked at the pot, unsure of how to use it. He felt uneasy about asking for anything, for he had always believed that hard work was the key to prosperity. But the village was struggling. There had been a great famine in the land, and many of the villagers had not had enough to eat for months. People were hungry, and children were growing weak from lack of food. One evening, after much deliberation, Koku decided it was time to try the golden pot. He went to his small hut and placed the pot on the ground. With a heart full of compassion, he gently laid his hands upon it and spoke softly. "Great pot, I ask for food for the village. The people are hungry, and there is not enough to feed them. Please grant us sustenance." As soon as the words left his mouth, the pot began to glow. It hummed with a golden light, and suddenly a large heap of fresh, ripe crops appeared before Koku. There were bundles of yams, baskets of maize, and heaps of fresh vegetables. It was more food than Koku had ever seen in his life. His heart swelled with joy, knowing he could now feed the entire village. Koku quickly gathered the food and carried it to the village. When the people saw the abundance he brought, they were overjoyed. They ate and celebrated, thanking Koku for his generosity. The food lasted for weeks, and the village, once on the brink of starvation, was now thriving again. But even as Koku watched the people feast, a small voice in the back of his mind warned him. "You have used the pot for the good of others, but remember, its power must be used with care." As the months passed, Koku's use of the golden pot became more frequent. The famine had ended, but there were still many who came to him for help. He used the pot to provide for those in need, food for the poor, clothes for the orphans, and medicine for the sick. The village flourished, and Koku's reputation spread far and wide. But as Koku's influence grew, so too did his pride. He began to feel that he was invincible, that the pot could solve all the village's problems. One day, a stranger came to him with a request. This man was wealthy, but he wanted more, much more. He wanted to build the grandest house in the village, one that would make him the most powerful man in the land. Use the pot, Koku, the man pleaded. Give me the wealth to build my house, and I will reward you beyond your wildest dreams. At first, Koku hesitated. He had always used the pot to help others, never for personal gain. But the man was persistent, and soon, Koku found himself wondering if it was truly wrong to ask for a little wealth. After all, he had helped so many people, and surely a little luxury wouldn't harm anyone. Reluctantly, Koku placed his hands on the golden pot and asked for gold, enough to satisfy the stranger's request. As soon as he spoke the words, a great pile of gold coins appeared before him. They shimmered in the sunlight, their beauty unmatched. The stranger, overjoyed, took the gold and began his construction. He built a magnificent house, the grandest in the village, and everyone marveled at its splendor. But soon the stranger's greed grew. He demanded more gold, more wealth, until he had taken everything the pot could give. As the stranger's power grew, Koku began to see the consequences of his actions. The once thriving village began to change. The people who had once been united now bickered over the stranger's wealth. The poor, who had once been cared for, were left to suffer as the rich grew ever more powerful. Koku realized that he had made a terrible mistake. He had allowed greed to taint the power of the golden pot. One night as Koku lay awake, he heard a voice, low and mournful, calling to him from the forest. He knew immediately that it was the stranger, the one who had given him the golden pot. He rushed outside and followed the voice deep into the woods, where he found the stranger standing by a large dark tree. The pot is gone, Koku, the stranger said, his voice tinged with sorrow. You have misused its power. You used it for your own gain, and now it has been taken from you. But I did it for the people, Koku cried. I never meant for it to be used for greed. I wanted to help. The stranger shook his head. The pot can only give if the heart is pure. It is not enough to wish for good things. One must always act with humility and selflessness. You have learned a hard lesson, Koku, but there is still hope. With that, the stranger disappeared, leaving Koku alone in the forest. When he returned to the village, he found that the wealth from the golden pot had vanished. The grand house the stranger had built was empty, its walls crumbling. The village, once thriving, had begun to return to its former state, where people helped one another through hard work and kindness. Koku was heartbroken. He had lost the pot, and with it his sense of purpose. But as the days went on, he began to understand the true lesson of the golden pot. The gift was not in the wealth it could bring, but in the humility and kindness with which it should be used. Years passed and Koku's farm, though never as prosperous as it had once been, continued to thrive. The village, without the magic of the golden pot, had learned to grow through hard work and cooperation. Koku never asked for wealth again, but instead, he found happiness in seeing the people of the village thrive through their own efforts. And though the golden pot was gone, its true gift remained, a lesson that no wealth, no matter how abundant, could ever replace the value of humility, generosity, and the care we show to one another.